Hello students, Aaron Cohen here to help you review the last few chapters of Vayikra that you have learned. Firstly, let us begin in Perek Vav, that's chapter 6. In Perek Vav, we learned that every morning the Kohen would go up on the altar, the copper mizbeach, or the outer mizbeach, and take the ashes off of the mizbeach that had been burning all night, and get rid of them, and add 2 new logs of wood on that altar. That's right. And the command was that the fire on the altar was never allowed to go out. We also learned that every day the Kohen Gadol would bring a mincha twice a day from his own money. Finally, we learn about the concept of Kodshei Kadashim, Holy of Holies. That's right, certain sacrifices were so holy that you could not eat them outside of the walls of the courtyard of the Kohanim, the Ezrat Kohanim. And for example, the Korban Chatat, the sin offering, was just such an offering. Also, if you use the dishes of the temple for cooking a Holy of Holies offering like that, like the Korban Chatat, you couldn't even use those same dishes for regular food without koshering them. That is Perek Vav. And for the silly story, for chapter 6, which rhymes with sticks, we'll talk about every day the Kohen going up on the Mizbeach to play pick-up sticks. He would pick up the burnt sticks, get rid of them, and then put in some new sticks and burn them, and making sure that those sticks don't burn out. And then the Kohen Gadol would play stickball with 3 matzot that he would use as a mincha offering, and he swing, batter, pitch them and hit them to the altar. Woo! Finally, if you were eating Kodshei Kadashim, Holy of Holy offerings, you could not leave the temple courtyard. But some Kohanim were forgetting, so they put up a big fence of sticks. Stop! Do not leave the temple courtyard of the Kohanim if you are eating Holy of Holy sacrifices. It is forbidden. And then, if they wanted to use the dishes for any other food, they would first have to take sticks and break the dish to make it kosher again. Of course, that's a silly story. It didn't really happen. And now Perek Zayin, chapter 7. We learn about first of all, some more laws about the Asham. The Asham is considered Kodshei Kadashim, Holy of Holies. The main topic is the Karban Shlamim, called the Shalmei Todah, the peace offering for Thanksgiving, or the Thanksgiving offering. This special offering was brought in 4 situations. If somebody got out of prison, recovered from a life-threatening illness, crossed the ocean, or crossed the desert, in each of these 4 situations, they would bring a Thanksgiving offering accompanied by 40 loaves. 30 of them were matzah, and 10 of them were chametz. That is a big Thanksgiving meal. It must be eaten on the same day and not left over. At the end of this chapter, Perek Zayin, that is, although I forgot to mention in my first video, it speaks about the Shalmei Neder and Nedava. Neder is an oath and Nedava is a gift. If somebody decided to give a Shlamim just because they wanted to make an oath or promise to God, they did not have to bring 40 loaves, and they could even eat it for an extended period for 1 and 2 days, but not on the 3rd day. If it lasted till the 3rd day and was eaten, it was called pigol, which means invalid. And finally, by the end of the chapter, we learn that the Kohen would get a special portion of 2 parts of the Shlamim. They would get the shok, the right hind leg, and the chazeh, the chest of the animal. And these were the gifts to the Kohen. And now for this silly story. Chapter 7 rhymes with heaven. And the Karban Asham is one of those Karbanot which are holy up to the heavens. Holy of holies. Don't eat that in the heavens or outside of the Kohanim's courtyard. And then we learned that you gotta thank heaven for 4 situations. And we're gonna call back our correspondent, Shmerel the Flying Cohen. I'm flying for the heavens. I'm going to bring a Thanksgiving offering when I get down. Anyway, quickly, the first one is going out of jail, or recovering from a life-threatening illness, or crossing the desert. or crossing the ocean. That's all. I'm gonna go thank heaven. And finally, we learn about the parts of the korban which are holy to the heavens and need to be given to the kohen. The thigh of the animal and the chest of the animal should be given to the kohen, who is holy up to the heavens. Thank you for watching. Perek Chet, which is chapter 8. We learn how the Kohanim and Aaron HaKohen have their inauguration, as well as the Mishkan. An inauguration is when you use something or do something for the first time. And the Kohanim were first dipped inside of the mikvah, then they were dressed in their special garments. Aaron was dressed by Moshe in his 8 garments, and then oil was smeared on all of the vessels of the Mishkan, as well as some on Aaron. And then the Kohanim were dressed in their 4 special garments, and special offerings were brought, like a bull, a basket of matzahs, a ram for an olah, and a ram for inauguration. And the silly story, chapter 8, rhymes with gate, that Shmerel the Kohen was running late for his inauguration, so he quickly ran, but the gate was closed, and he jumped over the gate, but landed in the mikvah on the other side, splash! Oh, what a wake-up call. And meanwhile, he watched Aaron getting dressed, and oil being smeared on all the vessels, and suddenly Shmerel noticed that Moshe had hung his clothes on the gate, so he got dressed up in his clothes just in time for the meal of the offerings that were brought on that day. Whew, I'm not going to come late again or jump over the gate before I look on the other side. Perek Tet, chapter 9. Chapter 9 speaks about the very special day when Aaron and his sons took over. That's right. Until now, Moshe had been doing all of the work in the Mishkan for the first 7 days, including putting the oil on everything and dressing Aaron and his sons. But now, it was time for Aaron and his sons to take over and bring all of the offerings. And finally, when Aaron finished, he blessed the people with the Birchat Kohanim, the priestly blessing, and God revealed himself with a fire coming from heaven on the Mishkan, and everybody who saw it fell on their face and rejoiced for the revelation of God on the Jewish people. Silly story for Perek Tet, chapter 9, which rhymes with wine. And all the animals got a bottle of wine and put them on their heads as they walked to the altar to give sacrifices for the 8th day as Aaron and his sons took over. And when they came to the altar, they popped their corks. And all the wine and champagne shot into the air. Woo! And Aaron, when seeing this, he got up and said the priestly blessing before saying l'chaim on the wine. And Hashem sent down a fire from heaven and consumed all of the animals and the wine too. And everybody who saw this fell on their faces and said l'chaim on some wine. Thank God Hashem has revealed himself to us. Alright, students, Aaron HaKohen back over here to test your knowledge. See how the memory system has helped you remember in which chapter which events happened. So, here we have our memory system. Aleph is 1, which rhymes with sun. Beis is 2, which rhymes with glue. Gimel is 3, which rhymes with tree. Dalet is 4, which rhymes with door. Hey is 5, which rhymes with high. Vav is 6, which rhymes with sticks. 7. Zayin is 7, which rhymes with heaven. Chet is 8, which rhymes with a gate. And Tet is 9, which rhymes with wine. Okay, so here we go. The question I'm going to ask you is, in which chapter do we learn about the Kohanim getting dressed in their special garments? If you said chapter 8, which rhymes with gate, you are absolutely correct. And in which chapter do we learn about the Kohen Gadol bringing an offering every day, twice a day? And we also mention in that same chapter that the ashes were cleared from the altar. Boom, 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 boom. Yes! Chapter 6, which rhymes with sticks. And my next question for you is, in which chapter do we learn that if for situations we must thank God with a thanksgiving offering? Dun 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 dun! Yay! Chapter 7, which rhymes with heaven. And in which chapter do we learn that Aaron blessed the people after bringing the sacrifices on the 8th day when he took over as Kohen Gadol? Bum 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 bum! Yay! Chapter 9, which rhymes with wine. You kids are really smart. Hey, let's see if you remember anything back from the previous chapters. In which chapter do we learn about the Korban Mincha? That's right, chapter 2, which rhymes with glue. In which chapter do we learn about the Korban Shlamim, the peace offering, which is shared by everyone? Chapter 3, which rhymes with tree. In which chapter do we learn about the burnt offering, that's the olah, burnt up? Correct, chapter 1, which rhymes with sun. And in which chapter do we learn about the sin offering, the 4 types of sin offering? Chapter 4, which rhymes with door. And which chapter do we learn about the asham, the guilt offering for those swearing falsely about money or stealing from the temple? Correct, chapter 5, which rhymes with hive. You are now a vayikra expert on Parakim Aleph through Tet. Go and study. See you later.